So we're recording. Not all of us are here, though. Minnie. Come on. Minnie. No. She's seen your biscuit. She's got distracted. Get on my lap. Minnie.
On the lap.
Minnie. She thinks she could give a biscuit now.
I will if she gets on your lap.
She can't jump that way.
You take the biscuit.
We'll talk to you guys in just a second. Come here.
Come on. Listen to me.
Alright. Can she have this biscuit?
Not the whole thing.
Well then, why wouldn't you give her a biscuit? Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
You can do it.
Come on.
Yay!
Yay! You give her a tiny bit while I say, hi everybody! Welcome back to Doctor Who Review. Husband and wife have watched Doctor Who from 1963, the first episode of An Unearthly Child. Well, technically we watched the pilot and then the first episode of An Unearthly Child. And we've been watching all the way through, and you've joined us on this journey, and we began it in late spring, early summer of 2018. Here we bleeding well are in real time. We're recording this in October 2021. You guys are probably watching this in summer of 2022. So hi over there.
Hi, I hope everything's better.
No, little time capsule of where we are. Doctor Who wise. Doctor Who Flux just had its actual reveal, like the unveiling and the trailer, like 2 days ago. It's coming out in a couple of weeks on Halloween. Jodie Whittaker has wrapped filming as the 13th Doctor. She's filmed her last scenes, which is nuts, because like we're not going to see them till sometime after you guys see this review, so that's weird. It's been a weirdly busy time for Doctor Who. And it's a great time now for you to jump in, because we're beginning a different era entirely. I'm Chris.
I'm not Chris.
And
this is little not Chris.
Tiny...
Boop.
Adjacent Chris. What did you do to her? Oh, there we go. She likes that. And yeah, we're going to talk... We're in the office, because we just thought we'd fancy a change of scenery, because it's a new era, and everything looks new. What do you remember of this series starting when it came out?
I remember thinking, I hate Matt Smith.
What, when you watched it?
Yeah, for the first time.
Wow, that's... okay.
Because it wasn't David Tennant.
Of course, you were a little... you were a stereotypical Tennant fangirl for about 2 weeks.
Well, about 3 years.
Really? Did you never get into Matt first time around?
No, yeah, but 3 years for what David was the Doctor.
I'm talking about after. I'm talking about what were your memories of 2010, the new series? Like, do you remember watching the new ads on TV with the Doctor and Amy on the lawn and stuff, and then like the ground like explodes and they're in a vortex? It was like a really cinematic advert.
I've slept since then.
Wow. Do you remember posing with the big cardboard thing at BBC Television Centre with them like floating in a vortex near the TARDIS? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, because I'd started my job at CBBC for the first couple.
Is it the same kind of picture that's on the magazine?
That one up there, the same one from Karen up there on the wall. Can you see it?
Yeah,
that was the picture.
Sorry,
I'd bring it down, but then I'd have to get it back up on the wall, and I don't want to bother. So I'd started working at CBBC for the first 3 months of me being there. The Eccleston Tennant TARDIS was parked up at Television Centre in the little walkway bit out of the canteen cafeteria reception area into the pathway toward the donut. And 3 months into that, it suddenly changed to a TARDIS with white trim around the windows and the St. John's ambulance badge back on and a different shade of blue. You're looking for a Matt Smith TARDIS in the room, aren't you? They're all up there at the minute. The Matt Smith ones are a bit out of the way.
This one here that Martha's in. That's
Martha?
White trim.
There's no Martha on the shelf.
Oh no!
Yeah, dingus. It's Yaz.
Oh,
You're getting confused because the leather jacket and the jeans. No, that's 13th Doctor's one. That's got a white trim too.
Okay, that makes sense.
But also that's technically an inaccurate toy because it's the first Doctor Unearthly Child one from up there, but repainted to match Jodie's colours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one's getting re-released in B&M. I mean, you guys have been and gone with this, you nutters. But that one's getting re-released in B&M before the end of the year with a slightly different, like, dirtier colour scheme and everything. But we got it first time, baby, in 2010. Or 2011. The year of our Lord!
I remember watching it thinking, oh, this is quite good, this.
Yeah.
But I can't love it because it's not David.
No, stereotypical David Tennant fangirl at the time. We now know you as a stereotypical Paddy Troughton fangirl.
Yeah, number 2.
Which is why I was excited for us to get to this era, because like with the last 2 Doctors, we are now in this rewatch in an era where we both saw this go out.
Yeah.
And since then, you have lived through the entire run chronologically available up to this point, and Paddy's been your favourite consistently.
Yeah.
So we're now going into the era of a Doctor who bases a lot of his sort of quirks and performance, at least in the beginning, on Patrick. Matt Smith auditioned for the role. When he knew he'd got the role of the Doctor, he started doing a little digging. He didn't want to just copy previous Doctors, but he wanted to get a bit of sense of it, because he wasn't really a viewer. I think he said in an interview he'd seen like some Chris Eccleston and some David Tennant, but he wasn't like, watching it every week.
Mm.
So he went to HMV and he just grabbed like a bunch of the classic series DVDs, and several of them were Patrick Troughton. And that was the first one he watched in his little binge was Tomb of the Cybermen. And Patrick was the Doctor he fell in love with, and is the reason for the bow tie. And the bow tie being a motif in his cosy. Because he wear the bow tie, and bow ties are cool. Have you seen his alternate costumes? Like the screen test ones they were doing.
Mm.
So the one they went for, there's no figure of him in that costume on the table right now. Sorry, there will be obviously future 11th Doctor videos, but I had to get the Raggedy Man figure on the table.
Yeah, can I just point out, Christopher got really excited about all the figures. Look at it.
I used to have way more toys in this era. This series is like the most merchandise
Heavy.
series, individual series. I mean. Prior to this, obviously, it was like Woolworths and Toys R Us shelves full of that big orange logo and David Tennant's face everywhere. But I mean, Series 5 was the one where it had the most sort of figures that were specifically Series 5 characters, monsters, scenarios, dioramas. Like, there was so many of them. And stuff came out for ages afterwards. I've got the San Diego Comic-Con Pandorica with River set, which is the chair and River.
Yeah.
And then I collected the wave with the later wave, which had none of these guys were in it, but later wave which had CDs as part of it. Like, it was a wave of CDs built into walls with Doctor Who audio adaptations on the CDs, which is a great idea. Like, hey kids, buy this toy and get an audio book with it.
I never actually thought to ask what that was.
You could build all 6 of them into obviously a Pandorica, but the grid is CDs. Or you could use 5 of them and attach them to the San Diego Comic-Con base with the chair in it, and store the other one just underneath it. And then so I've got that, and I've got that River. There's loads of monsters. I did have Pete the Winder, Hawthorne, and 2 different types of Smilers, but when we were getting married, when we first started this marathon, they were one of the many things sold to help pay for things along the way, saving up to the wedding. So there are no Smilers in this review, but there is an Ironside. Just
to let you know.
The Ironside that came with Churchill, who I also sold in 2018.
Just to let you know, weddings are expensive.
Yeah.
And you have to pay for the whole wedding thing, and also everyday things like bills, food,
I was mostly
travel.
selling stuff that year just to like keep the council tax covered.
Yeah.
Basically.
To feed the children.
We didn't have many at that point. We just had
2. Now we have 3.
Yeah, but they're easy to feed, the cats.
Are they? They're the most expensive.
You just point at a rat and you go, attack!
Yeah.
We are already deviating.
Sorry, I'm comfy now.
But I remember being really excited about this series, and I remember enjoying it so much that I really fell into it that year. Like, I mean, do you remember my flat in London? I had basically the Pandorica Opens as a diorama on my little bookshelf in the living room.
Dioramas? You don't do that.
No, but I mean, like, I had the monsters that appeared in that story, and and that was a display. That was displaying here for a very long time. There was a shelf that had basically sort of like a Pandorica Opens kind of thing with new and classic monsters. We never got the Blowfish from Torchwood.
Didn't we watch the first episode go out with a group of friends?
Yes, I believe we watched the 11th Hour. We did. Yeah. No. It wasn't the 11th Hour. It was the Big Bang, the finale.
Because we did have fish fingers.
We had fish fingers and custard,
which oddly worked.
It oddly did work. Because before I moved to London, I moved to London on January the 2nd, 2010. On January the 1st was the End of Time Part 2, and some of us got together and watched it at my mum's.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like my way of like hanging out with some mates before I went to London. It was like, let's watch David's last story. David's leaving. I'm leaving. Isn't this poetic?
My heart was breaking.
And then with Smith, you were at uni. It didn't really matter.
I left at that point.
Not yet. No, it was a couple more
No, it
months.
is.
No, it was a couple more months.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, you didn't tell me.
I left in January. Do you not remember?
In January? You didn't leave on January the 1st.
I left.
You left later in January because it was that period where I was like, how's things going at uni? Texting from my little B&B in Shepherd's Bush, and you were like, yeah, it's fine.
No, I went back for 1/2 of a day.
Oh, but that would have been like mid-January though. You were off like for the first part of January.
I didn't even go to any lessons. It was just...
No, you were off. You weren't in uni, attending uni for the first couple of weeks of January because the course wasn't back yet.
Oh, no.
Oh my god. The point is, 11th Hour, I really like it. If you're watching this, you've seen it. You know it. Yeah, but the newly regenerated Doctor crash lands in the backyard of Amelia Pond, her aunt's house. Her aunt's never in.
Wouldn't it be funny if he'd landed in the pond?
The duck pond. Why are there no ducks in the duck pond? Well, how do you know it's a duck pond? Anyway, that'll be important later. Little Amelia Pond, played by Caitlin Blackwood, who does a phenomenal bloody job, and is like the closest thing to a teaser trailer for Amy Pond ever, because it's like, yeah, this is sort of what Karen Gillan's going to be like.
Do you want to tell the story?
Well, it's not my story to tell. Look it up, but essentially, they're related. They didn't hang out a lot at that point, and they got the parts separately.
Crazy.
That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Just like, wow, she really does look a lot like Karen. It's like, yeah, it's because they're freaking related. Surprise! There are only 5 women in all of Scotland. True story.
Wow.
Oh.
Only 5?
Yeah. And they all take it in turns. So now that Karen Gillan lives in LA, there's a 5th one's allowed in.
Oh.
If Caitlin decides to move somewhere else, then...
Do they, line up outside?
No, they just sort of get caber tossed from wherever they are into Scotland.
Oh, do they?
You worried about how racist this sounds?
No.
Good. Because it's factual. So this random bloke appears in a box in her backyard after she prays to Santa for someone to take a look at the crack in her wall. What? She prays to Santa. Did you not? Did you watch this episode?
No, I did.
It was like 3 nights ago.
Stop. It's just the phrase, pray to Santa, sounds
She is sat
diabolical.
at her bedside, on the floor, hands together in a prayer. She goes, "Dear Santa." And she prays for someone to take a look at the crack in her wall because it's terrifying her. She hears things through this crack in her wall.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying the pray to Santa just sounds really, really bad.
Good God. This is a brilliant introduction to how good he is with kids.
Yeah.
The 11th Doctor is very, very good with children. Like, he's... And as Matt's style develops and as Stephen Moffat and co start to write for him more than for him to interpret, they really lean into how good he is with kids on screen. Like, how much he is just... His Doctor is a kid.
Yeah.
He's a child. He's this old, wise, ancient thing that looks like a 12-year-old dressed in their geography teacher's, outfit.
No, do you know what it looks like? It looks like he looks like a school kid that finished school ages ago and has been playing on the field for football.
Yeah.
And has finally come home.
Yeah, I see that.
What a state of you. Where have you been?
The two of them do great, and it's just they hit the ground running. He's just so... He's chaotic, but he's warm, but he's a little bit scary, but he's absolutely the guy you want on your side, and he delivers a lot in this post-regeneration. Is this sort of the most chaotic post-regeneration? No, Colin, of course.
Oh, Colin.
Imagine if he'd showed up at the TARDIS and was like, no, the swimming pool's in the library. Ah, you don't even know what a pier is, do you, Amelia? And then just starts, strangling her in her own backyard. And I love...
Throttle, isn't that a good one?
I love how he deduces things. I think this is something that Stephen Moffat, when he's on his A game, and you can see it in sort of early Sherlock as well, the way that the characters already figured something out, and they're keeping an eye on it, and they don't mention it until they then have to mention it to the other person.
Yeah.
So he sort of says, she's not scared. And he's like, of course you're not. Giant box falls out of the sky, man falls out of a giant box, man eats fish custard. You don't bat an eyelid. So you know what I reckon? Must be one hell of a scary crack in your water.
Yeah.
And then
do you know that gave me chills, really.
And then you have that bit.
It made me think.
And then you have that bit skipping ahead to the beast below. Yeah. He's figured out already the level of the threat that's going on, and the fact that it's a police state just from how the young girl's crying. Like, he's worked it all out already, and then he spells it out to Amy. And you have the recurring thing of him putting the glass of water on the ground and looking at it, and then just picking it back up and moving on. You're like, what's he doing? And then later you realise, no vibration, there's no engine. It's like, oh my god, that is... And it's sort of like... It's like the Second Doctor, and how the Second Doctor kind of plays at being a bit of a clown, being a bit of a fool. But he's always kind of quietly playing a chess match in his head. You know, the Seventh Doctor does that as well a lot. Like, it's sort of... If I had to group the 11th Doctor in with any others, it'd be 2 and 7. Like, there's that very sort of clownish, playful nature. Meanwhile, he's got a scheme going on. Whether or not he's planned it for decades, or whether or not it's on the seat of his pants, and he's just going with it. Like, he just sort of... Smith's so good.
He is.
So we get the fairy tale vibe this series, and this episode sets it up.
Yeah.
The idea of the tiny little quaint village, the girl with the imaginary friend.
Look how cute she is in her wellies and nightgown and little cardigan.
I think I still have it over here somewhere. I've not sold it yet, have I? I was going to auction it.
I have.
It's around here somewhere. I have the Amelia around here somewhere from the Doctor Experience with her coat and her briefcase and her bobble hat as well.
Yeah, I've seen it, so it must be somewhere. But
it's possibly sold on eBay by this point of you watching this. Oh, no, it's up there. It's up there at the moment. There she is. It's adorable, isn't it? On the shelf.
Yeah. I had a big coat.
You had that coat,
and it happened to be exactly the same.
Yeah, you had that bloody coat.
Shop. Don't fit in anything.
Made you look like Paddington Bear.
Did it?
Yeah, it's cute.
Did it make you want to give me a hug?
It made me want to give you marmalade, and write to your auntie in Peru. Anyway, so yeah, like the fairy tale vibe is set up very early on with the girl with the imaginary friend, and the idea that everyone knows about Amelia's imaginary friend.
It must have been, but
like she made her childhood friend now fiance, though we don't know that. Obviously, in the first section of the episode, that development happens between the 12 months, whatever, or 2 years, whatever it is, where he still misses it. She made Rory dress up as him when they were kids. Like, all the neighbours know about her obsession. She still has in her room a load of dolls she made as a child. That's something that it's so dark.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
It's so dark, but it's the fairy tale vibe of the series kind of distracts you from that slightly. This is a story that deals with the trauma of...
Yeah.
If you had an encounter with the Doctor and it completely fundamentally changed your understanding of existence, and then they bugger off,
well, if you think about
how do you cope with that? And how do you cope with it when your mind is still developing?
It's implied
it's
that...
so well done!
Oh my god, can I get a word in edgeways?
Yes, you can!
When we first meet her, obviously we... Oh shit, sorry. We find out that her parents are no longer around.
Yeah, and it's never elaborated on.
Yeah.
And her aunt is never around. Like,
So,
she's there, but she's not there.
you think about it,
yeah,
the constant sense of abandonment is so clear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing that they actually went that far to say, oh, look, this affected her for the rest of her life.
Was it 4 therapists? At 4,
yeah.
I kept biting them. Why? Because they said you weren't real. And it's like
that's traumatic.
That's really, really like, yeah. So then again, he said in an interview once, Stephen Moffat, I think this was prior to him show running it. He said in an interview that, like, his idea for... You get distracted by the Streamlabs Stream Deck coming on. Yeah, the computer's on standby. Occasionally, everything just sort of comes on a little bit.
I thought, like...
Oh, my God. So...
I was worried.
And this is why we're recording the living room. So Steve Moffat said in an interview, he says that his idea, his way of judging whether or not a story is great for Doctor Who is if you write down the story or write down the script and then you think, oh, well, I've just blown that feature film idea, haven't I? And it's like, I saw that first time and I went, oh, all right, calm down. Maybe it's not that big. But then I'm like, it doesn't necessarily mean big blockbuster sci-fi feature film.
No.
Because at the heart of the 11th Hour is a story about a girl whose imaginary friend comes back when she's older, after everyone told her it was BS.
Mm-hmm.
And that film exists. It's called Drop Dead Fred, and you can watch it right now, everybody. But obviously this is with the twist of it not being a dark psychological drama that everyone mistook as a kids' film in the 90s for some reason. This is a...
Did people really mistake it as a kids' film?
Oh, are you kidding me? Like, there are people our age and slightly older who grew up with that film as like, oh, it was one of my favourite films as a kid. It's like, it's really not for kids, guys. Like,
oh my
just
gosh.
because Rick Mayall is like hilarious in it, it doesn't mean it's a kids' movie. In fact, it's on the shelf over there. What certificate is it? It's a 12. It's not for little kids. Anyway,
wow.
And it holds up brilliantly until at the end he's passed on to another kid, and you're like, oh, they're real. Wait, no, hang on.
Because it creeped me out.
It works better that they're not real. It works better that it is all in her head. But anyway, Phoebe Cates is great. Yay, Gremlins. The point is, hello, Gremlin. There's one back there. I don't know if you can see it in the shot. You can see it's here. The point is, it is a very, very cool idea. The idea that not only is your imaginary friend genuinely real, but he's an alien from outer space and things are about to go absolutely tits up.
AWOL.
Yeah, and this is no hyperbole. This is, for me, the best post-regeneration story of the modern era so far. I love it.
You've always loved it, though.
I love this story so much. And I don't mean like, the first story for a Doctor, because then, my Doctor, he doesn't get a post-regeneration story. Eccleston hasn't had a post-regeneration story. My favourite introduction to a Doctor in the classic era is Spearhead from Space. Mm-hmm. No wonder I'm biased toward this one being my favourite in the modern era. It takes place in a small village setting. There are aliens that look like people or are being mistaken for people. The majority of it centres around a hospital. The Doctor spends the majority of the first half of in this case, the majority of the whole story, but like the bulk of the peril, like just wearing like their old crappy clothes,
shoes.
And then and then creates a costume by nicking it from the lockers at the hotel. The only thing missing is there isn't a scene where Matt Smith has a shower and has a really obvious Navy tattoo, and sings Lewis Carroll poems while he's pretending to be a hospital staff member having a shower. I don't know. Basically, Spirit from Space is amazing. I've always loved that as a post-regeneration story. I like the different interpretations of post-regeneration for a Doctor. Like, you could do some really interesting things with the idea of the body their body's repaired, but they're not quite ready yet. Mm. And some stories do really boring stuff with that. Castrovalva! And other stories do slightly misjudged stuff with it, like Time and the Rani or The Twin Dilemma. But then you get like Robot or the TV movie or this, where they do something really interesting. Like here, he's plunged into something. And even he at some point stops and is like, I'm not done. Like, I'm not finished cooking. Like, this is too much.
Like that.
Yeah, but he's like, this is too much. It's too much too soon. And he goes with it. Like, like with the Eighth Doctor, like he's not settled. We don't ever see on camera in the show up to this point Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor fully formed, really. Because it's him in his like panicking fugue state after regeneration for the whole film, knowing that we've got 12 hours to stop this. I have to keep going.
If you're unsure as to if Christopher likes this, listen to how excited he is.
Yeah,
and he's like this every time he talks about this story.
It's so good. And the thing is, it's not even that special. It's a perfect gear change. This series, and we'll talk about like the whole series as a whole when we've finished this series, but like this series does this beautiful balancing act of kind of continuing this with the skeleton of the previous era and the previous like showrunner and everything. Like this feels like, and it nearly was. This feels like the 5th series of the Russell era. except it's wearing new clothes.
Yeah, it
and
does
they
feel
happen
that.
to be fairy tale clothes, and everything's a little bit more fanciful and a little darker, but a little bit more magical in its presentation. You know, that's where we're going with it.
Yeah.
When David Tennant found out Stephen Moffat was taking over from Russell, he nearly reversed his decision.
Really?
Yeah, he nearly reversed. He hadn't announced publicly he was leaving yet, but he had already decided that when Russell and Julie go, he was going as well.
Right.
And then he heard Stephen was taking over, and he was like, oh. And they had a meeting, they had a chat, because he was like, maybe, just because obviously in his era, he had done Girl in the Fireplace, Blink, and Silence of the Library and Forest of the Dead. He was like, I would very much like to do a series of the Stephen stewardship.
Which is really annoying, because they're really good.
And look on Twitter, there are threads and posts where people have sort of speculated what Series 5 would have been. I think Will might have done one, actually, Mr. TARDIS. What Series 5 would have been like if you keep the same stories, but you put the 10th Doctor in it, and how it would have worked. With the idea being him regenerating in the last story of the series. I'm glad it didn't work out that way, though, just because I think Matt gives a fantastic performance to kick off with. We have some great supporting cast in this first one. Annette Crosby as Mrs. Angelo. Massive shout out to Tom Hopper as Jeff, who's been memed for over 10 years at this point. Get a girlfriend, Jeff. He's been memed continuously for over 10 years.
That's pretty impressive.
That's one of the funniest moments in the episode. Unfortunately, it's a joke that Stephen Moffat knows is funny, the browser history joke, so he keeps using it, as we will see mostly in Capaldi's era. But, yeah. Caitlin Blackwood does a phenomenal job as Amelia Pond. Nina Wadia briefly showing up as Dr. Ramsden. Barney Collins is, I believe, the man in the coma, played by Marcello Magni, with his dog.
Cute.
Which is a really nice visual. That's quite cool. The first time, you hear the barking and you look over and the dog's just completely still.
Yeah, and it's him.
Patrick Moore, cameo, because of course, why not? Olivia Colman, Oscar winner. It feels like, I'd say it feels like a waste of Olivia Colman. Even then, in 2010, I was like, really? Is that all they're getting her to do? But at the same time, you could say that for Nina Wadia. It's like, really? Is that all they're getting Nina Wadia to do?
Yeah.
But it's fine, because what she does in the brief bit she's got, she's really intimidating.
Yeah.
And the bit, Prisoner Zero is a really fun first story villain. Like the Autons with Eccleston. Bless you. It's a great visual villain with a cool gimmick who needs little to no explanation, so you can focus on the Doctor and the new companion. Just like the Autons in Rose. Oh, mannequins coming to life and killing people. Great, got it. I've got it. In this,
we need to run as far away as possible for it.
Yeah, in this creepy slime thing that looks like everyone who's in the coma in the hospital. Great, got it, perfect. And that cool gimmick of it's whatever they're picturing. So the mother, Olivia Colman, is holding the hands of her young girls, even though it's not. They're not there either. They're in her mind, because she's thinking about her kids, so she's holding her kids' hands. And the guy with his dog, and so he's holding the dog, and it's just what a great idea. I think Prisoner Zero is a really nice, simple, creepy design. I remember for ages in DWM it was referred to as the face tendril. So I think that's what they must have been called in the design stage or something.
It is creepy. I mean, just from looking at it
as a toy.
Here, hello.
It's well made for an odd prop, isn't it?
It looks slimy.
It unfortunately doesn't have a suction thing or whatever on the bottom, which I always thought was a shame.
Ew, look at its stand.
You should be able to hang that up from a shelf, like a bookshelf. Do you know what I mean? There's probably someone watching this who, if they've got this figure or had this figure, they covered the bottom in. No! Don't eat the Doctor! No, Doctor! Let me shower you.
Numb your hand.
They must have covered the bottom in blue tack or double-sided sticky tape. You know what I mean? So, what are you doing? No, it's that way so you can see what it looks like on camera, because if it's that way, it just looks like a stick with a white circle, whereas that way you can see it's got teeth and eyes. Hello, it's me, Prisoner Zero. Good day. Stop it. Right, so,
Sorry.
The Atraxi is fun. I like the idea of the story basically being there's a space prison, something's got out through this crack in the fabric of reality, which the Doctor sets up as this should never be a thing. Two different places in space and time pressed together, two places that shouldn't be connected pressed together.
Yeah.
The crack is like a break in the structure of the universe.
Yeah.
And this prisoner of this facility has gotten out. The Atraxi, its prison warden's like, we're gonna... Prisoner Zero has escaped... Was it? Prisoner Zero has escaped the human residence. The Prisoner Zero has escaped. Prisoner Zero must vacate the human residence, or the human residence will be, like, eliminated, whatever it is. And the Doctor, like, revealing to her, it's like, yeah, it's not the house. It's been hiding in your house for 12 years, but it's not what they mean by that. They mean the planet. Like, if this thing is not found, they declare it dangerous enough that they will just blow up the world. So it can't escape.
What did it do?
Well, that's a good question. Also, here's another question. This is something for us to examine later, because spoiler alert, I really like this series. It's the only one of this era and showrunner era that I really like all the way through.
Really?
Yes. I have massive problems with every series that follow.
What about Vincent and the Doctor?
No, series. Vincent the Doctor's in this series. It's literally listed on the back of this box.
Is it really?
Vincent the Doctor is in this first series.
Oh my god, I'm excited.
This first series does not have a dud for my money. It's got weaker episodes, but it's not got any duds. Like, they're all really interesting. I think the weakest of this series is the one we're going to talk about in this video, funnily enough.
Is the Vampires of Venice?
Yes. Oh my god. This series is The 11th Hour, The Beast Below, Victory of the Daleks, Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, The Vampires of Venice, Amy's Choice, The Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, Vincent and the Doctor, The Lodger, The Pandorica Opens, and The Big Bang. It's a series of frickin' bangers.
Is there more episodes than there has been?
No, same amount, 13. It's a series of frickin' bangers, yeah.
I'm actually really shocked. I thought that was spread out. And then I totally agree with you then. I'm sorry.
We're getting off track!
Sorry.
It's a series of frickin' bangers. But, like, one... Prisoner Zero, what's its last words it says before it, like, gets teleported up or whatever? Silence, Doctor! Silence will fall. Now, remember that, everyone. Just remember that. Because later on, I'm going to ask you the question, how the hell does that know what any of that means? And I'm going to keep asking that question from now until the end of Moffat's tenure.
Little time worm.
Little time worm boy! Amy's totally a stripper, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kissograms aren't a thing.
Yeah, they weren't a thing in 2010.
No.
It's established over the course of the other stories that her present timeline is... actually, to be fair, her present timeline would have been like 2008.
Yeah.
So kissograms were still not a thing.
Kissograms were probably a thing in the 1920s.
Then again, Ledworth is a small village. Maybe she was pioneering it.
No
She'd
way.
seen it in like crappy 80s comedy rom-com films.
You're not going to get much income out of that.
Do you remember what your mum called the character when she first saw her?
A floozy.
Floozy.
She still calls her that.
Which is weird.
She loves it. She loves that. She loves this series. She loves Matt Smith and loves Amy Pond.
Again, I will. In your mum's
floozy.
defense for being like Amy is way too promiscuous, I think Amy's and Rory's arc should finish at the end of this series, because as it goes on,
it's a bit tiresome.
They're basically just flirty and meek, and that's all they are.
Yeah.
In this series, they work really nicely, even down to her flaws of, as we'll talk in the next episode, trying to get off with her imaginary friend when she's getting married the next day. Because they do tackle it. They do tackle it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they shirk away from it. And this first episode establishes that she is deeply psychologically damaged.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is to do with this man she's been thinking about for the majority of her life.
She's a good person.
Who makes very bad decisions.
Is she a nice person?
Amy's a nice person to people she doesn't know. She forgets to be nice to the people she's close to.
Okay, here's
because in series 6, she insults him a hell of a lot, and for the entirety of their relationship, I'm like, does Rory not feel bullied here?
Let me put a situation to you.
Here we go.
If I had an imaginary friend, say Bill, when I was a kid,
yeah,
and turns out that he was real,
yeah,
and he came back,
yes,
and you knew that I had a massive thing for him,
mm-hmm.
Would you be, like, traumatised if you found out that I was trying to get on him the day before we got married?
I mean, yeah, I'd have an issue with that. Because I'm like, excuse me, we're getting married tomorrow.
But you would have trust.
But my further question is...
What the hell?
Trust issues.
Trust issues.
My further question is, well, they do get divorced in Series 7. My follow-up question is...
Why did he marry
well, they don't even get divorced.
Like,
they don't even get divorced in the show. They get divorced in the miniseries Pond Life.
Do they get divorced or do they separate?
They get divorced. Because, like, the papers are being signed. But then you find out they get... We'll cover that when we get to it. Asylum of the Daleks is a fucking mess, and we will get to it when we get to it. But, who's playing Bill, the imaginary friend?
Johnny Depp.
You have my permission. Go off, Queen. Enjoy yourself. Because you've been obsessed with Johnny Depp since you were like...
Johnny? He said yes!
You've been obsessed with Johnny Depp since you were like 12. So...
A little bit further
like,
back. A bit further back.
Come to me first and be like, look, I know we're getting married, but it's Bill, my imaginary friend played by Johnny Depp. Can I at least make out with him? I go... Can I sit on his lap? Can I watch? The point is...
Can I sit on his face?
We're at that point in the review series,
folks. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So, I think Karen balances the good and the bad of Amy brilliantly.
Yeah.
I think she really, really does. Because this is a character who is... To your child viewers, they're not going to pick up on all of that stuff as much.
No.
Your adult viewers absolutely will.
Yeah.
And to balance that performance across two very different age, sort of like, viewer demographics, it is to be applauded. And I think Karen Gillan does it brilliantly. Like, she really, really does. I like his outfit. I think it's a really good choice. Like, I mean, the Raggedy Doctor one's cool too, but I mean, the eventual reveal.
Yeah.
Of just
really good.
Bow tie,
but
tweed jacket,
know,
geography, like old school geography teacher is basically his design, and it looks good. And the bow tie is because of Patrick Troughton, because he asked for it. They went with a straight tie when they were doing the costume test, and Matt is up there, and Matt asked for a bow tie, and they tried it with a bow tie, and they were like, "Yeah, this is it. We have to stick to this." I love the TARDIS reveal. I love the interior reveal. I think it's beautiful. I love that little "oh, you sexy thing" when he first goes through the door and you can see how freaking happy he is. Yeah. And it's I love lovely.
The relationship between the Doctor and his TARDIS. I love it. I
don't hate that, because he this era really goes in on it with him.
Yeah. And
a lot of people have an issue with the whole sexy thing. Like, especially because in The Doctor's Wife next series, it's like, I think you call me sexy. And he's like, only when we're alone. And it's that whole thing of, really? Like, oh, come now, Stephen, Vicky, go over there and prepare for adventure. I'm just going to twiddle sexy's knobs. Like, it's not, every Doctor is not like calling the machine sexy. Do you know what I mean? But I'm totally fine with this dorkish little schoolboy in his dad's outfit doing it, because it's weird and quirky and kind of adorable the way that he's flirting with his thing. And they refer to it later, the whole thing of it's like men and their motors, boys and their toys.
I was just going to say, men, not just like
he's a massive dork, but this is his little... Yeah. This is his Motorhead like streak. His little like, he's the kid with the who's obsessed with cars and motorbikes, and he's a nerd, but he's a bit of a gearhead. And he thinks that the TARDIS is sexy, and I'm like, go for it. Why not? It's cute.
I love.
He plays it with such an innocence.
I love him climbing out of it.
Brum, springing out, yeah.
Like literally climbing out of it. I don't know. I just think that's a great visual.
The TARDIS on its side, and
it's also kind of terrifying, because it's like if you fall, oh God,
if you fall
in the pool in the library,
again. And I like the fact we finally get the pool, because there's been mentions of the pool, and now we know it's definitely there because he's climbed out of it.
Oh no, I'm just remembering things that are coming, and I'm like,
forget it. He jettisons the pool in a later story. And we'd seen the pool before. Actually, the Fourth Doctor's here, Invasion of Time, there's just shed loads of them walking around corridors and, like, greenhouses.
Obviously, just
filmed at a greenhouse and a Roman baths.
Like a power house or something.
Powerhouse? Oh, right, yeah, I know what you mean. I was like, what, that one that's got a swimming pool and a garden? No, I know what you mean.
Like, pipes and...
I really like the story. Do you like the story?
I like the story.
I think it's a great introduction. It does a great job.
Yeah. I think this guy's really scary.
Oh my god, please stop. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry.
Please don't cry.
Don't cry,
Please
Dad.
to
You. It doesn't make sense to anybody. For those pedantic ones amongst you who are like, hang on, you've got the box set. What about Meanwhile in the TARDIS? Speak about that next. We'll speak about that in 2 videos' time.
Gotta watch and see.
Do you know what story I didn't expect to adore as much as I did on my rewatch, but then I ended up actually really liking it?
Please tell me.
It's The Beast Below. The Beast Below is a pretty unusual choice for the second episode of this era. I think it was the choice as second because it firmly establishes who he is, and it firmly establishes who Amy is. Like, it really sets in what this Doctor's morals are, and it really, it challenges Amy. Because this is a deeply uncomfortable story when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, again, as a kid, scary frowning men in the booths, and the mysterious people in their cloaks, and wow, who's this? Is the lady with the porcelain mask? And they've been vomited up by a big monster. And as an adult, you're like, holy Christ, they're lobotomizing something so they don't have to make an engine be a thing, and everyone's choosing to forget about it. Oh God, this is horrible. It's almost like governments sometimes do the worst possible things and hope that everybody just accepts it.
It is...
commentary! But Doctor Who's never been political.
Doctor Who's never been political.
No, it's never been political, guys. It's never been political. No, it's never been political.
Lies.
And this also leans into the idea of what the role the Royals play in that power structure as well. Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say now.
Beast Below.
Oh,
Scary,
yeah, sorry.
Dreams.
It's... I'm not being, dramatic. Bloody hell. It is truly heartbreaking. Yeah. Even though I know it's not real.
Mm-hmm,
and I know that the creature is not real.
Star whale, yeah.
It's a star whale.
Mm-hmm.
A whale. In
the stars.
The last of its kind. And it could not bear the children cry. Are you kidding? It was happy to take you along, and you chose...
Oh, we have to capture this thing, quick, before it goes away!
We have to be aggressive, even though it came through the stars to find us.
We have to tear up a route directly to its, frontal nodes, so we can electroshock them to keep it awake, so it keeps flying.
It's horrific.
The you and me that watched this in 2010... I remember liking this episode, but never really thinking much of it, other than it's kind of cool. I like the concept, and Liz 10 is freaking awesome as a performance by.
Isn't Mira? Is she also kind of sexy?
Oh, Sophie Okinoda is absolutely sexy. And what did she first appear in? Doctor Who related?
The with the screaming things.
Scream of the.
Shalka.
Chakra. Scream of your chakra. Yeah, she was in Scream of the Shalka, and here she is making her live action debut as Liz 10.
AKA who played the Doctor? That's part on your name.
Richard E. Grant.
Who is also...
Where are you going with this?
Very sexy.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, yeah, to be fair.
What were we talking about?
Well, even when he's dressed as Loki / Kermit in Loki Season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got.
Have you ever seen With Nail and I?
No.
We have to watch it together. Even if it is to be burglary. We have to watch it.
What?
We have to watch the film. It's him and Paul McGann, and it's amazing.
But is he very sexy in it?
Yeah. Well, no, he's deeply unpleasant, but it's also Richard E. Grant, so you're like, yeah, but you're kind of hot though, aren't you?
Oh, he's tall, dark, and handsome. I love Richard.
Tell them your guilty pleasure / film you went, oh, he's kind of hot.
Watching it as, a young teenager, along with the mummy, it's a sexual awakening!
But what was the Richard E. Grant one?
The little vampire.
The little vampire.
He's sexy in that film. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But
anyway.
And also, he is so friggin' charming.
Yeah.
Follow Richard D. Grant on Instagram, because he is...
Adorable. I hope nothing happens to him between now and this video going out.
Oh no, don't say that.
I just fingers touching wood for Richard D. Grant, which is ironically what you'll do after you've Instagram. Sorry, go on. Go on. I had to say that. Go on. What's that? Hurry up, we're so off topic. We're so off topic.
What was that film that he's just been in?
Doesn't narrow it down.
That is Jamie, is it?
Oh, everybody's talking about Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in that, he's sexy. It's his smile. He's got a huge smile.
He has a big smile. But his friend from Screw with the Sharker, Sophie Okonodo, is in this as Liz 10.
I love you, my husband.
Oh my god, it's totally fine to fancy him. Calm down.
I'm sorry.
So she's great in this, and David Ajala, sorry, apologies, David, as Pete the Winder he's only got a few lines, but he's got this really steely kind of he's got proper burning eyes, hasn't he? Pete the Winder, the fella whose head turns around. The first one you see his head turn around, you realise that the Winders are all smilers. So only got a couple lines. It's pretty creepy. But if you're talking about spooky eyes and villains, I know he's not playing the same character here. This episode's biggest crime is casting Terence Hardiman as Hawthorne, and him not only not being a villain. I can deal with that, because then what you're doing is the casting is subverting expectations of younger audiences. But him not really getting too much to do.
No, exactly.
He does really well with what he's got, but it's I'm sorry. It's a kid's show that the family watches. A big part of its key audience that's talking about it online in the early 2010s are Tumblr generation, late teens, early 20-somethings. Yeah. And you put the demon headmaster in it, and you don't use him much.
I see him.
No, bad.
I see him and I get a shiver of fear.
Yeah.
I can't help it. He's spectacular.
He's so good.
And his eyes are incredible, but I just look at him
oh god! But there is
creeper.
Oh Jesus! Did you ever read the books? I loved them. Anyway, point is, oh god.
I know they were evil, but I was worried with them pin badges that that was the hands.
Oh god, yeah. Anyway, sorry. He does great in this, because you get that massive sense of regret that Hawthorne and all the staff are they know that the position they're in is horrible.
Yeah.
But they think it's a necessity. And it makes you wonder if the people who came up with the idea of doing this to the Star Whale are even alive anymore.
No, yeah.
They've been flying for a while now, and it's this whole thing of... you've watched it if you're watching this, but if you haven't, sorry, I'm not going to explain it in great detail, but Liz 10's been kept alive because it's part of the sovereignty, it's part of the image of Starship UK.
The image,
she, as far as she's aware, she's been alive for 80 years or something. She's 80, yeah, and barely aged, because they give me this stuff so I can reign longer and make sure my people are okay. So, okay. And she's very hands-on. When she feels that something, and obviously she's been doing it repeatedly over decades without realising it, when she feels that something's up, she's been investigating. Because she's I don't want secrets being kept from me or my people. It turns out
she's been doing this.
Actually, you've been keeping them too without realising it.
She's been doing this over and over and over again.
Nearly 200 years.
Yeah.
And the porcelain mask she wears, again, the Doctor figures it out before it's said, and you can see that he's clocked something, but he keeps quiet. The notion that this thing is perfectly sculpted to her face, and it's ancient. This thing. She's yeah, and he's but it's perfectly sculpted to your face. And then 10 minutes later, the penny properly drops, where it's where he just admits, where it's because you've been around as long as this mask. You've not been doing this for, 60 years, whatever you think. You've been doing this for at least 200 years. And every time she's got to the Tower of London, she's chosen to forget.
Yeah.
And it's just, because
she's been put in that horrendous moral quandary of...
Which every adult citizen of the Starship is. Everyone. And you get the whole, what is it? Is it object or forget?
Yeah.
And everyone who clicks forget... Well, they never explain this, how Amy records a message for herself. I don't think they ever explained that. But... But then again, she could have just asked the machine, because obviously in that Amy's gone. Like, that 10 minutes of her memory's been erased.
Mm.
So we don't know what happened. She probably panicked and then was like, can you record a message so I make sure that I don't... Do you know what I mean? But you get that thing of the guy on the screen being like, you know, if a certain percentage... No, what is it? It's just like, if even one person objects, they will put it to a consensus. They will have a parliamentary
like
and
a
then
big
public
vote
vote about what to do. The truth of Starship UK. So this, of course, implies that no one has ever objected, which means everyone's been horrified. But then when the Doctor hits object, we find out that no, what actually happens if you object is whoever set this system up isn't taking the chance of it being a big public discussion, and you get chucked into one of the feeding tubes. Well, you get thrown into its mouth. Basically, you get thrown into a feeding tube, and you will... the plan is you will be swallowed, but if you aren't, there's those backdraft, like those overflow areas where they end up after they vomit him. They get vomited up. This isn't going to be big on dignity. I love that line. And he's just freaking adjusting his bow tie and straightening his outfit, even though he's already covered in goop. And he knows that he's about to get covered in puke.
So
and he's just like, Geronimo! Like, proper cheering about it. And Amy's just going, ah! It's like such a funny image.
That's so gross.
And then, obviously, you go into the overflow pipe, and what's waiting for you there? There are two booths. So they either get you out the door, wipe your memory, and then send you back to wherever you're from.
Why am I dripping?
Or in the case of the kids, they take them to the tower, and they just... basically, like, do manual labour.
No. No, they said...
Little Timmy! I can't believe the kid's called Timmy! Sorry, go on.
They do the same, don't they? But
bad boy, Timmy! It's like, shut up, you called him Timmy.
So gross.
Sorry, go on.
But they, human piece of toast.
A piece of toast.
The whale won't eat the children.
Yes, well, that's the thing, isn't it? The kids always end up in the overflow. So they basically get forced to do manual labour because they're not eligible voters, so they're not going to, like, mind wipe them and send them home. So they just go missing, which is why there are rumours. But there are enough people know that it must be part of the system that no adult is fussed. They just accept it. Yeah. And there's a whole thing of what happens if you take what happens if you take certain... Like, the kid getting in the lift after getting a bad test... It's like, no, that's a privilege you're not allowed because you're failing. So there's all these horrible police state-style archaic systems in place, and you get the sense that all the people currently running it, Hawthorne, Liz Tennant inadvertently, and the Winders were like reinforcing it, none of them are the ones who made these calls. They've inherited this system, and they don't know a better way. Because they honestly think that if this all goes to pot and the star whale is disconnected, we're just going to drift in space and die. Because no one's ever considered the possibility of doing what Amy does, which is take that massive leap of faith. Because, like you said, she figures it out.
Yeah.
It spares the children. Because this was always... It doesn't eat anyone on purpose, but it spares the children. Because this is what it's wanted all along. And it's the fact because she learns in this about the Doctor's background enough that he gives her. Like it's all gone. It's all gone now. It's just me. But this is what I do, and you just get that sense of like, okay, this is good. They're not dwelling on the Time War stuff like the last season, the special season, like kind of closed that story. But she gets enough to kind of see the parallel between him and the Star Whale, and she takes that massive leap of faith. And he's rightfully angry about the fact she does it. But then when he kind of takes that moment and realizes it's like she made the right call, and he gives that massive hug they have at the end.
Yeah. That feels
so
really genuine.
Wonderful. And I love his anger before that.
I was just going to say, he's... There's people in the world that are so cute and kind and genuine and would do anything for you. But when you see them angry, it's scary.
Yeah. And he's...
Like, if you were to ever get angry, I bet you would be scared.
It's like your dad's like the gentlest bloke on the planet, and he's not a pushover, but he's not an angry guy, or not often does he get particularly upset either, like very visibly upset. and the few times that we've seen it, like since we've been together, you've always been like, "Oh, that's really unnerved me." Well, and when I say angry, I'm not saying like he's like, "Oh, damn me!" Like he'll get angry at something else, and it's sort of very like, "Oh my god," when you see it because it's just so unexpected. And 2 episodes in, it's already scary to see him because he's such a child.
It's crazy that it's so relatable, isn't it? I've never really thought about it.
This episode, Beast Below, when I was a kid, I wasn't a kid, I was freaking 19. When I was 19,
still a kid.
I liked it. Now that I'm 30, 31 when this goes out,
oh god,
I really like this episode. My god, I really like this episode. And I didn't expect that. Should we talk about one I don't like that much?
Go on.
Time Lash from season 22. No, it's Victory of the Daleks. I think Victory of the Daleks is a fantastic 2-parter that never happened. I think the best part of Victory of the Daleks is the first 15 minutes, and that should have been an entire episode, with the twist being the testimony, and then it reverting.
There's way too much going on.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up. The end.
Like, no, do you know what I mean? I feel like it should have been like a 2-part, like Ally of the Daleks, Victory of the Daleks, something like that. Where you're like, oh my god.
We all know.
Like heroism of the Daleks and Victory of the Daleks, something like that. Where you just sort of like, what is this first one about? What is happening? Because his frustration is so relatable in it. You're like, what is going on? What is this? And now we've done our marathon as well. Like, as of this point, we've not watched the Recon of Evil, so shush. But Power of the Daleks, I am your servant. Like, we've seen the episode where they play dirty and pretend.
Yeah.
And that was the inspiration for this one, and that it is quite cool. We've still not seen Evil at this point, so we've not seen them like turned into sort of childlike beings with the Doctor riding around on their back like they're a merry-go-round, which I can't wait for us to finally watch that. But we've seen one episode of Evil of the Daleks, the one with the clothes shop in modern day and the teleporting back.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I love the design of the Ironsides. I love that it's just a retooling of the Bronze Daleks. I love that the ID tag is a Union flag. Would you care for some tea? Is still a very funny line to hear said by a Dalek.
It's what? Just I'm turning into a Dalek. No, it's so.
When you leave the room, come back in, you'll be in a glass Dalek with your face just like, kill me! Oh god, no!
That's traumatic.
It was, wasn't it?
It was.
No. Sorry, go on.
What was I going to say?
Dalek, Ironsides.
It's so British.
Oh, it's painfully British.
If you slap... Is there a Union Jack on it right now?
On this figure, yeah, the Union flag is there, where the ID tag should be.
You could put that up as a symbol for Britain.
Oh, that's disturbing. These
guys
are Nazis, maybe not.
It's not great,
Which is why it was weird.
Doctor Who,
in the 50th anniversary year, they released one of the remote control ones of the bronze design, painted like the Union flag.
Yeah.
And the reaction to it was mostly... What?
That was in our cupboard for ages. Oh, no, it was a white one.
No, we had a spare of the Supreme, because our friend Gary asked us to keep hold of it. But no, it's...
Did you ever give that to Gary?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I how did I get it to him? I took it when I did Sarah Jane, the Attic event in 2017.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we held on to that Dalek for like 3 years, and I took it there and gave it to him. But no, so it was... they did the bronze Dalek in that range, painted like the Union flag. And the reaction online was mixed to it. Because it was, this is kind of cool, because obviously the Dalek is very much British iconography in terms of British TV and fiction and everything. But it's also like, yeah, but they're an allegory for the Nazis. Like, do we really want to be like, rule Britannia on the space Nazis? It's always like when people like really go all in on stormtroopers and make like cute stormtrooper stuff. I'm always like, guys, the stormtroopers are a cool design as a piece of design work. They're absolutely iconic as a piece of design work. And I'm not saying if you like that design, you're a Nazi.
You're a space Nazi.
But they are space Nazis, so can we maybe stop making them cute? It's kind of weird.
It looked like one of those, the tourist shops in big cities.
Those Daleks absolutely belonged in those shops.
It's a post office, but it's also selling all crap.
Yeah.
Bibs that say, I love London, even though
5% of the shops in London, basically.
Yeah. I've got all bags hanging up outside.
And cardboard masks of the Queen and things like that.
Who buys that shit? Does anybody buy it?
If you ever bought one of those, let us know down below so we can judge you.
And change your life choices. I mean, Jesus.
This is... It just seems to work really well.
Yeah.
And the idea that Churchill gives them a ring.
That's far more British than a Union Jack Dalek. That's really funny.
Churchill gives them a ring. They arrive a month late. So there's a bit of a trend being set up now that this Doctor's not quite got the hang of specific materialisation yet.
Mm-hmm.
They show up a month late, and it's like, Bracewell created... Professor Bracewell created these things, and we thought we were in a bit of trouble with them, but it turns out we're fine. They're all right. Bracewell is played by Bill Patterson, the wonderful Bill Patterson. Do you remember him playing the really angry village guy in Good Omens? Who people getting directions keep pulling up to him at the small village, and he keeps leaning the window, and basically young hip people he thinks they're the worst thing ever. Do you remember?
No.
Oh my god, we have to rewatch Good Omens Series 1. So good.
Yeah, purely because of David Tennant and
Michael Sheen.
Let's
watch it for Bill Patterson playing the angry man who keeps yelling at people in his car. He's the one who keeps yelling after the group of kids, when they're biking around the village, the first half before they got the forest, and then are all terrible actors for 2 episodes. They're just kids! You can cast better kids.
So bad.
Point is,
anyway.
I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're lovely people, and I'm sure they've improved as performers.
I'm sure they're lovely.
I'm sure they've improved as performers. But my god, those 2 episodes of Good Omens where we keep coming back to them in the forest, every time we cut back to them, I was like, do you want a brew? I'm going to go make you a brew. Bill Patterson plays Edwin Bracewell, who is a military scientist who has created the Ironsides, metal creatures that will fight in the war against the Germans. They're just waiting for the right time to deploy these guys. There's 2 of them, if I remember correctly. And I'm burping, pardon me. And they're Daleks. They're obviously Daleks. The Doctor's like, whoa! What are you up to? The hell! I love that first reveal shot. You see the target being shot out of the sky, and it's that laser sound, and you're like, wait a minute. And then from between the rows of the sandbag wall, it just glides into shot, and it's like, no, that is so wrong. What is happening? And even more disturbing is the fact that Amy has no idea why the Doctor's so worked up about this. Despite the fact that not 1 full series ago, Earth got moved to a different part of the solar system and invaded by Daleks.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remember. And again, he sort of is like, and then moves on and brings that little tag at the end where he's like, yeah, but the thing that worries me most is you don't remember them. How can you not remember them? There's something more to this. And they bugger off, and of course that's the TARDIS dematerialises. We see another crack on the wall.
Who was it that saw the Dalek? Oh no, I just remembered.
What?
The captain.
Adelaide Brooke.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Because of course at the end of episode 2 we saw there was one of those cracks in time on Starship UK, which doesn't quite make as much sense as it does in this one, because in this one it's sort of retroactively at the end of the series you realise that the reason she doesn't remember is because of everything, the effects of this thing bleeding away, time and erasing stuff. So her being near it the whole time in this story without them realising they were near one. So it makes sense. But Bracewell hasn't created the Ironsides. He just thinks he's created the Ironsides because the Ironsides created him. I hate the metal chest plate just being like a Greek statue shape. It's really weird.
It's unnerving.
But I love that he is. I love that he is their contingency plan. That his memories are so well crafted that he genuinely thinks he's real.
Yeah. Plus
he has is it called a reality continuum or something in him. Basically, he's a bomb. And he's going to... Can I find the name of it? No, it just says unstable wormhole on this thing I'm reading. But he's going to implode and wipe out Earth. And the thing that stops him from doing so is them convincing him that, no, you are real. You are human. as far as you are concerned, you are real. I do feel kind of bad at the end when they sort of go like, right, yeah, how about you go find Dorabella, like go to your village. It's like, he's going to go there and it's probably not going to exist and she's probably not even there because...
Yeah, it's made up.
It's all made up. But the idea is they're saying, live.
Yeah.
Like, just go. Like, you are alive. You saved the world by being alive and a person who matters and has feelings. So go and do that stuff. Like, I like Bracewell's story. I like his resolution. I think it is very, very sweet.
Yeah.
It would be hilarious if he actually is like, Dorabella! And there's like no village there, because of course there never was.
Hello there, scientist man!
Why is an American lady in Paisley?
Was I American?
Yeah. You're like, hello there, scientist man!
Well, that was Scottish.
Well, I was Scottish. You were American.
Okay, hold on.
Hawkeye the new!
Hello there, scientist man!
Hoots mon!
My name's Dorabella! That's a nice...
I've got lovely eyes!
Oh,
you plucked them out and put them in a cabinet because you're a robot!
We met in a village once. You've got rockin' abs.
He does have rockin' abs.
You're the bomb.
Oh no! Bracewell is working for Churchill. We're sort of like pre-Blitz at this point, where London's still sort of under threat of attack at any one time.
Current Blitz, they've got all the...
yes, but I mean, like, they're not being attacked at the moment, but they're under threat because the idea is the Daleks, their first sort of thing to screw them over is they turn all power on in London.
Well, they are being attacked because the Germans are coming.
Yes, I do. What I'm saying is it's not like the last time we were World War II where active stuff is happening at that moment and everyone's sheltering. Like the defences are up, is what I mean. Like, London is more defended in this story than it was in that one.
Barrage balloons.
Right, yeah. Point is, they're put in danger when the Daleks basically turn all the power on. So London is lit up like a freaking Christmas tree.
Rose is just hanging.
So it's an easier target. No, wrong story. So it's an easier target for obviously any German Air Force that are looking for London. Like,
yeah, they would know exactly where to.
Because it's this big bright thing. Yeah. So I like Mark Gatiss does historicals very well.
He does
because he leans really well into the historical
stuff. It's
really
annoying because they're my favourite.
And he leans really well into the historical stuff. Like, the wartime stuff here is good. There is a whole separate debate to be had about why it's wrong to 100% go, Churchill, eh? What a hero. Like, there's way more to it than that. But basics, he was a fundamental part of like, the days and decisions that eventually led to the end of the Second World War. He didn't end it, obviously, but it's like, the reason why a lot of people stayed alive was because of him.
Yeah.
There was also a lot of stuff that is not good.
He didn't support women's rights.
Yeah, so...
he was completely against the suffragettes.
What a prick. But, if you're going for that, like, you know, wartime spirit kind of version of the character, which is what they're going for here, Ian McNeice does a very good job.
He does.
Ian McNeice plays the part very, very well. It's a very likeable character based off of Winston Churchill, if that makes any sense.
Based, yeah.
And I do love the idea that he and the Doctor apparently have a history. The Doctor has met Churchill several times.
Wink, wink. No, sorry.
The Doctor has met Churchill several times, and Churchill is like, every time he's like, give me your time machine. Like, we could end the war with this thing. And the Doctor's like, no, seriously, you'd destroy the universe without intending to. Like, the consequences would be 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Because I like that sort of thing. And as they're leaving, he's nicked the keys.
Yeah.
Which is very funny. I like Amy's rapport with him. I think Karen Gillan and Ian McNeice have a really nice bit of chemistry in this. I think Smith's proper fury over the Daleks, like, clearly fibbing, is cool. And I think Nick Briggs does a great job with all the voices he does in this. Shall we talk about the 6-foot-tall giant hunchbacked elephant in the room?
That chunky boy.
Oh no, not this guy. I think these are freaking amazing and I genuinely hate the fact that they cowered it out and abandoned them. No, I mean the fact that this episode stops being genuinely brilliant at the 15-minute mark when the Dalek plan is revealed and we suddenly go to a giant kitchen in the sky. With all of its cooking units moved. Well, actually, it was in like a cigar factory or something like that.
Was it a kitchen or was it a prison? Oh, he didn't have
the
the sash.
Security kitchen. Yeah, he didn't have the sash.
Sash on.
Go back and watch our The Ark review for some context on that. It's a
Or
video that
any
came out
of
about
the
4
others.
years ago.
Or any of the others, because we reference it a lot.
Take them to the security kitchen. The moment it becomes...
I have a sash. Am in charge.
The moment the story becomes focused on the progenitor at... Oh, God, the progenitor and... The moment the story becomes focused on that, the moment it becomes solely a visual showcase for the new props, the moment it becomes the standoff style, checkmate kind of thing of, oh, we've won, but we're going to do this, but we're going to blow you up, that's a biscuit, oh yeah, bugger, we're going to turn all the lights on, well, we're going to stop you from doing that by firing at you with a Spitfire in space, which is kind of a fun visual. Yeah. I don't think it's shot very well, but it's a fun visual. And yeah, your realization of like, oh god, that is Mark Gatiss making an uncredited cameo as the voice of Danny Boy, because I was like, it's Mark in this, and you're like, is it?
We love Mark Gatiss.
We're fans of his work. This is I think this is my least favorite contribution of his to the show, and it's not necessarily because of him, it's because it's one episode.
Sorry, Mark.
Sorry, Mark.
I love you.
Sorry.
Christopher doesn't.
I do. I'm a fan of your work and of your soul.
I like you better.
He's not watching this. The point is, once that happens, it dominates the over half of the episode's runtime. And of course it ends with the victory of the Daleks. It's in the title. They get away. Like, the original lot, the very few survivors of the events of Stolen Earth Journey's End, 3 of them have ended up here. They want to bolster the forces, bring the Daleks back en masse, and they found the progenitor. Cool idea. Something that, basically a database that once plugged into Dalek machinery will create new mutants, new casing, new armour, new technology based on the original DNA pattern of the Daleks. So essentially it was like a time capsule that they scattered a load of across the universe, that when they would get to them, they'd be like, right, here we go. Turn it on, stick it in the microwave, out come a bunch of new Daleks, we're going to grow the force and fleet here and carry on with our invasion. Yeah?
That's a big microwave.
No, but that's the idea behind the progenitor, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've all been destroyed or lost in time. And this is the only one that these 3 Daleks have managed to locate. Problem is, these 3 Daleks are so far along, they're probably the ones like created from Davros's DNA in last series.
His rib.
So they're no longer, as far as the space Nazis are concerned, they're no longer pure. So they go undercover, knowing that the Doctor will eventually discover them, knowing that the Doctor will identify them, and because in all that database, the Doctor is their enemy, if the Doctor says they're Daleks, the progenitor will go, alright, I guess these are the Daleks. So it's a cool idea. Like, I like the idea that they need this testimony. They need the Doctor without him realising it, and he plays right into their hands. Something the Daleks do very well, and I think Mark Gatiss does a great job within this, is they can be very cunning. They can be very manipulative. A lot of stories forget that, just have them running around yelling and shooting, but like they can be really creepy and conniving. And they are here. They're playing a long game. They're banging out with Churchill for a few months. They've created a man who thinks he's real, who thinks he invented them. Like, they've gone to such a length, knowing that he's going to show up at some point. The Doctor's going to rock up, say nice and loud, you are the I'm the Doctor, you're the Daleks, in whatever words he happens to say them in. It just happens to be that. And the progenitor's going to go, all right, fair enough. And it's going to do its thing.
Do you reckon the Daleks would have said in real life, you couldn't resist, could you?
Bitch!
You can't stay away from us.
You love to see us leave. No, you hate to see us leave, but you love to watch us walk away.
Roll away.
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh,
look, a hatch full of weapons that we'll never get to find out what they are.
My bums, my lovely Dalek lumps.
God, I love you. Anyway. So, oh my god, right, so, freaking hell. So, the problem is, all that happens is they rock up, they're very, very strikingly different to look at. I like them a lot. Do you know what their biggest flaw is?
They're really big.
The Dalek design had already been nailed. The bronze one of the modern series is probably, someone will say this is sacrilegious in the comments, it's the definitive design. It's the most refined, honed version of a Dalek design. It's so good. It's so good that whatever follows will be judged harshly.
Yeah.
Even when people get sick of it, they bring a new one in and people don't like it. That bit at the back, they talk about it in Confidential. The idea is, see the cylindrical thing on the side, the circular thing on the side?
Yeah.
The idea is that the gun arm will slide back, go into here, and a different weapon cache will come out and slide round into that arm.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
The only time we ever see it is in
the
hardback graphic novel. No. Oh god. The only time
that was quite
the only time we ever see it is in,
the
only time we ever see it is in the hardback graphic.
Oh
my god.
I didn't do that.
The only time we ever see it is in the hardback graphic novels. The hardback BBC graphic novels.
Right. Sorry about that.
Oh my god. That's the only time we ever see them do cool things like that. I think they might have done it in the first Adventure Games game. I think there might have been a bit of it in that too. We learn of the designations in Confidential. They're never mentioned on screen, but the white one is the Supreme. The red is the Drone, which then follows into the video games and the graphic novel. Like, the red is the most common one on the battlefield. The blue one is the Strategist, which is also on the battlefield. The orange one is the Scientist. So that's essentially the new version of the Cult of Skaro, things like that. Like, the orange one's the ones that devise new weapons and technologies and radioactive mutant warfare and things like that for their conquests.
Bitches.
And the yellow one, who's this boy here, is called the Eternal. And in the Confidential, Mark says you're just going to have to wait and see what that is. And we still don't know. Like, it's 2022 for you. And we still don't know. Because they never get their chance to shine. This is the first and last story featuring these Daleks as the main Daleks. A couple of them cameo in the finale. We get a cameo from one of them in Series 6 from a Supreme. Series 7, Asylum of the Daleks, we get a couple of them, a Supreme and a Drone, now with the metallic colour scheme, which looks much better on them than the flat colour scheme that they get in this. And that's it. That's it. That is all we ever see them in the show. It's a massive waste, and I wish they'd stuck to their guns. I really wish they'd stuck to their guns, because they're different. And that's not a bad thing. Resolution, Chibnall Zero, we get the scrap metal reconnaissance Dalek that's built like impromptu, and it's a really cool one-off. Oh, that's really scary, and it's a remote controlled prop, which means it gets like the skinnier build and everything, and it's intimidating for that story. It's great.
I think that red one is my favourite looking Dalek.
Well, they can't see that, so you're gonna have to tell them what you're pointing to.
It's this
red Drone, but with a metallic sheen.
But with a red metallic.
Yeah, that's also the one from Asylum, so it's all dirty.
Give me a toy, I'm going to play with it.
Nope.
Sorry.
Beg your pardon. So
sorry.
That one's cool, but then Revolution of the Daleks happens a year later, and we get Daleks based on that design, the black and silver ones, and I don't like them. I don't like them at all.
Do you know what?
Because it's the whole thing of, well, that worked, let's do it again. And it's like, no, that one's a one-off, and that's why it works so well. So then the bronze ones rock up to kill those ones and be like, you're not real, and start shooting them. But then the bronze ones have been tinkered with, and they've not got suckers, they've got these weird little, like, pointy things instead that are never explained. And it's like,
do you know what
But just bite the bullet, keep this design, just change the paint scheme every now and again.
Do you know what I'm
Make them blue and silver.
Do you know what I'm gaining from this?
Right.
Just don't use the Daleks anymore.
Do you like this episode?
No. Because it's the friggin' Daleks again.
What do you like about it?
I'm getting Dalek fatigue.
What do you like about this episode? You're a historical nutter. Do you like the historical stuff in it? Do you think it's handled well?
No,
the setting
it's very basic.
And
very,
what do you call it?
very
Susanna
basic.
Fielding as Lillian, who doesn't get a lot to do, but she's like the one in the war room who's got
who's
somebody
like her
fighting.
partner is It's very.
Do you think after he dies, she sees his ghost? Wrong actress. I'm thinking about her because of Resolution. That's a different actor. That's the one from Ghosts in Resolution. The one with the scrap metal Dalek. She's the one being piloted by it.
Right.
This is the lady from This Time with Alan Partridge.
Yes.
Because I was getting really distracted. I was like, I recognise her. I recognise her. Why do I recognise her? This is really annoying. And I looked up afterwards and I was like, oh, it's Jenny Grisham. Okay, that makes sense. She was like 18 in this.
Oh my god.
Tiny.
A baby.
Tiny baby human.
A baby. I love how I said that and you looked at the dog.
I immediately looked at the dog who was sat in her basket in my office just like fast asleep.
Snoozing. Yeah, it's very by the books, you know. Oh, it's the Blitz. Oh, the lights have come on. We need to not have that. Oh, somebody's partner is
wow, you're so cold. You're so cold and emotionless.
No, I'm not. It's just
Biff bam! Oh, take that, Fritz.
John, can you hear me, John? Anyway,
if anyone gets that reference,
if you get that reference, I'll be very impressed. Anyway, great film. I don't know. It's just it's a very basic wartime story.
And I think had it been a two-parter, your first half could have been that with the intrigue of what the hell are these guys doing here, and then the second half could be all out sci-fi nut jobness of this new Dalek clique coming into existence and how World War II era forces have to deal with it. Like the.
I think if they had been,
and I think it retroactively would have been better had they then stuck to their guns, and the next full Dalek story we saw was these boys and whatever their plan was. So you get the sense that this is like part one of their story arc going forward. As it happens, it's just they win. Bye.
I think a better way of doing it would be to have the Daleks side with the enemy. Because, you know, but have the same kind of structure as like, oh, the Nazis think that they built the Daleks, the Ironsides, because they were all into creating random scary shit.
I think the reason they avoided that is because it would have been too on the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing it here, but you at least have the through line of the Doctor being like, Winston, they're exactly what you're fighting against. Don't listen to them.
Yeah, no. So them not doing that made it a real basic story.
So what you're saying is they were damned if they did, damned if they didn't, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you could do with it. Really. You can't stray too far from the subject matter.
It is my least favourite story of the series. I don't think it's a bad episode. It just...
It's boring.
It's fairly unremarkable is its biggest problem.
It's boring.
It's got enough about it. Its biggest strength is its visual iconography. Ian McNeese's Churchill, the Ironsides, the new Paradigm Daleks. Like, its visual iconography is very striking. It's the outfit that Amy is in most of the publicity surrounding the relaunch. Yeah. The red t-shirt and brown leather jacket
and the skirt. Yeah.
Like there is a lot of visual iconography that's very striking in it, and as a result, you're looking for on the shelf. She's not there. I don't think it's a bad episode. It's just not the best one in the series, really. And some people might be watching this going, hang on, you rate this lower than Amy's Choice, or you rate this lower than The Lodger. I do. And you'll find out why when we get to those episodes. But, yeah. A really strong 3-episode start, though. Just move the tripod. A really strong 3-episode start for the series overall, I think, though.
Yeah.
I think it's a really nice start, and it's mostly because of these two.
I know I'm biased against the Daleks, but I understand why they put... I'm amazing, but they don't like me, so I'm leaving. Bye.
What was your point?
Yeah, so I personally don't like the Daleks. Sorry, I've got an itch on my nose. But I understand why they put a Dalek story in, because on the
we watched the featurette, I mean, the Monster Files. What? Are they saying, like, on the thing, we watched the Monster Files where Stephen Moffat says, when he was a kid, he was always like, I never really buy the new Doctor as the Doctor until I see them up against the Daleks.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Which I don't think is a necessity, but I get what he's saying.
The Daleks is like the favourite villain, isn't it? So to get you to like this new Doctor because he's new and everybody loved David, and we're trying to get everybody to love Matt now.
Whose hands?
We're going to put them...
Why are you a cat?
We're going to put them in a story with the new Doctor.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey...
And then what does the Doctor do in the story?
We can make toys!
And what does the Doctor do in the story? Lose.
Yeah. We can make toys, we can make games.
To be fair,
because it's the Daleks.
What toys though? Come on.
Of all the Dalek toys, apart from that red one that I just mentioned, no, there's a few that I like. But anyway,
thank you.
It is a good looking Dalek.
Would you care for some tea?
Well, I wonder what's in its little satchels. Some biscuits.
I wonder what you guys thought of the episode.
Some sugar for your tea.
Let us know in the comments. Do you like the 11th Hour, The Beast Below, Victory of the Daleks?
Napkins.
What is your favourite post-regeneration story? What do you think is the best one? If anyone says Castrovalva, I will have words with thee. Do you like this era? What are your memories of 2010 with it all kicking off? Would you like to hear Not Chris sing a sea shanty? Let us know in the comments below. I'm gonna press the button now because I've got to stay up late and render this. You can go to bed. Amy, no! Oh no, 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 Amelia, no!